Welcome to today's class on Dotloop 201. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing, and in today's class, I'll be taking you through a little more of the advanced Dotloop tips, tricks, and time savers. So it will be a slightly faster paced class than the Dotloop 101 video. Okay, if you are brand new to Dotloop, I would highly recommend watching the Dotloop 101 video first. That can be found on slmtraining.com. You can watch Dotloop 101 there first to get the basics down before watching this Dotloop 201 video. Alright, so the first question we have is how to get into Dotloop. And if you're in this more advanced class, you're probably comfortable with getting into Dotloop by now. The best way to get into Dotloop is by logging into mykw.kw.com, which is where I am here. You'll see that address at the top of my screen here, the mykw.kw.com. And we'll want to go ahead and click on Start My Transactions on this top center E-Edge control panel box. So you'll see it says Start My Transactions in blue, and that is typically the easiest way to get into your Dotloop account. You can, of course, go to dotloop.com directly if you feel more comfortable logging in there. That is totally fine. And just a heads up, there is also a Dotloop mobile app, so you can add that to your phone if you have an iPhone or an Android device. The same goes with tablets. It's really great to have on your iPad or Android tablet. So if you're on the go, you can work with your clients and work in Dotloop on the go. Again, there's a Dotloop app. Just go to your App Store, Google Play Store, and you can download that right away. Now, just a couple more housekeeping items. When you are logging into your Dotloop account, you do want to make sure you're connected to the KW Premium version. Okay, so you'll want to see that it says Premium on the top left of your account. That means that you will have all the forms that your Market Center adds for you, and it also means you have all the features that Dotloop provides to Premium members. Okay, now if you're logging into Dotloop and your screen looks slightly different than mine, okay, I am on the newer Dotloop homepage. And this newer Dotloop homepage rolled out in the last, I want to say 6 months. They have not forced everyone to move over to it. So if you are looking at what I'm seeing on my screen, great, hold tight for a second. If your Dotloop home screen looks like this, okay, this black and red here, this is the older Dotloop homepage, and I know if you've been using this for a while, you're probably more comfortable with it. Dotloop will, I believe, eventually move everyone over to the new Dotloop homepage, so I'm going to teach class from the new Dotloop homepage. So if you would like to go ahead and follow along with me, you'll see it says click here for early access, the new and improved loops page, if you are on this older Dotloop homepage. So go ahead and click here. It's on the slightly blacker toolbar. Rest assured, you can always come back to this older Dotloop home screen here. You are not locked in. So I would go ahead and move on over to the new Dotloop home screen by just clicking here, so that you can start learning it before Dotloop forces you to. Okay, now just a heads up for those of you that do really like that older Dotloop homepage, you can always toggle back by clicking on your headshot or your initial on the top right in a circle, and you'll see it gives you the option to switch to old Dotloop. So you can always get back. Now the good news for any of those of you who have been using the older Dotloop homepage, the newer Dotloop homepage is navigationally very, very similar. It's all really in the same spots. It just kind of looks different. Okay, loops are more in squares and it's white and blue. Okay, so it's really just the look that's changing, and if you click on any of the loops, it'll look the same that you're used to. So with that being said, I'm going to take you through just a couple things you'll need to know about this newer Dotloop homepage here. I'm going to focus starting on the search bar. So one thing I do like about this new Dotloop homepage, you will always see the search bar no matter which view you're on. So especially as you start to have a whole bunch of loops in here, sell a whole bunch of homes, you can always search for the loop you need very quickly. And you can see the items you can search by, title, MLS number, etc. Alright, filters. This one's a huge one to staying organized. Okay, let's go ahead and click on where it says filters so we can take a look at that. Now let's talk about this archive section. Now there is no deleting anything from Dotloop. You can't delete forms from your loops. You can't delete loops in general. Okay, so if you ever can't find a loop in your account, the good news is it's there. Okay, you can't delete it. Typically you'll want to leave this option here on hide archived. Okay, hide archived, and it's probably like that by default on your screen. And hide archived is hiding the ones that you don't want to see, your quote-unquote deleted loops, if there was a way. So let me show you how you could go ahead and archive loops. All right, so from your loops, so looking at my loops here, if you don't have any loops, you can just look on my screen. So you will notice there's now this archive option right on each one of your loops. Right, so it's as simple as that. If you don't want to see this screen, so let's say this loop was terminated, or you had a practice loop, or you don't need this one any longer for any reason, simply click on where it says archive here. You'll see it turns it gray and it marks it as archived. Okay. Now to get rid of those, it won't just automatically disappear. You would have to refresh your page or just take a look at filters here. So I have it set so all of my loops are showing. I am going to go ahead and click hide archived and click apply here. And it will hide those archive loops from my screen. If you already had that filter set to hide archived, you would just have to refresh your page and it would hide those archive loops for you. Okay, so it's a really great way to go ahead and get rid of the loops that you don't need to be seeing, that are trash essentially. Okay, and this is how you can control those. You can always pull those archived loops back up by clicking only archived. Now take that a step further, let's take a look at loop statuses. Loop statuses are really important to organizing your loops. It's really important to be able to go into your Dotloop account and find the loop that you need as quickly as possible, since everything is time sensitive with real estate. Typically the loop statuses that you want to display on your Dotloop home screen, I have checked here. So really you typically want to check them all except for sold. You don't need to regularly be seeing your sold loops. Your done loops, withdrawn, and terminated. Okay, so you can check all of the others and leave those ones I mentioned unchecked. Okay, you're unchecking the ones you don't want to see. I don't have a save or clear option on my filter. You're talking about these probably here. You might have to scroll down slightly to see those. It does block it depending on your screen size. And these save options here, that will save like a default filter for you. Alright, so really what you want to do, if you unclick, if you change anything here, you'll see apply. That's really what you want to look for if you make any changes here. You'll want to click apply, and that will change what you're seeing on your Dotloop home screen. Now as far as how those actually change like pertaining to the loop itself, you will notice the option to change the status right on my loops. And again, if you don't have any loops quite yet, just watch on my screen. So let's take a look at this one right here, this loop for example. I don't have anything entered in yet. So the type here is none. All right, so the first thing that you'll have to do if you don't have a type selected is select none and scroll down to select what type of loop that is. So if it's a listing for sale, a purchase, and so forth. Okay, so you can select whichever that may be. Now once you select the type, you have to select the type first, and then you will be able to select the status. It has to be done in that order. You only see the status after the type. So now I can adjust the status to one of these options here. So if, for example, if this is under contract, or if this is a sold loop, okay? So I could click on sold here to change that. Okay, and then that is what correlates to these filters we were just working on. So now that the status is sold, all right, if I come up to my filters and I make sure that the sold is unchecked, it will no longer show my sold loops. Again, you'll have to refresh your page in order for that to take effect. You'll see it doesn't just automatically disappear when I change the status. If you're not familiar with how to refresh your page, you would just click on the arrow and a circle on the very top left of your Dotloop, of your browser rather. It's next to the back button. So if you click the arrow in a circle, I'll see that now my sold loop is gone. Okay, my sold loop was right there, and now it is not anymore. Okay, but of course you can always find that again by coming to filters and selecting to see your sold loops and click apply. Right? So it is really important on how to sort your Dotloop homepage, as you will be selling lots of homes and having lots of loops, and it's very overwhelming having so many loops all on one homepage to find things quickly. With that being said, we do have sort options on the right hand side. You'll see it has sort, and you can click on that. There's a bunch of different ways that you can sort your loops. My personal favorite is the last updated option, as that will put the loop at the top that you've been most recently working in. Okay, that makes the most logical sense to me, as I'll need to keep working in that loop. But of course, you can sort by different options here to find your loops, however it feels best for you. You'll also notice a little arrow on the right-hand side of this sort option here. And that is allowing you to toggle if you want to display, let's say, last updated in ascending or descending order. Okay, so that will change it right away here. And lastly, on our Dotloop homepage here, we do have this list icon on the far right, okay, that will toggle how you're viewing your Dotloop home screen. So if you would like to view it in a list option versus that grid option we were looking at previously. From what I've seen, all the features are the same in either view, which is good. That's a good change Dotloop made. However, it's just whatever is most appealing to you, whichever makes sense in your head a little bit more is totally fine. Same features, so whichever you prefer. And you can toggle that anytime on the far right here, that icon. One last thing before we create a loop, I do want to point out there is now a texting feature in Dotloop on the far right. You might have noticed this little speech bubble and this blue tab that's popping out now. So if you click on that, it will give you some options here. So it'll say Messenger on the top, and it will show you a little pencil with a piece of paper, let's say, right? That's typically the compose icon. When I click on that, it will give me the option to enter in a name. Right, so it does have some of your contacts in here. And you can also put in the phone number of your contact right here. Let's see. Let's do this number. Okay, so you put in the number that you want to go ahead and contact. Right, and the main benefit of this is it keeps track of all of these texts. So if you need to keep track of your texts, for legal reasons, it's always good for compliance to have those on file. You can click next. It will take you to compose a text message so you can send that to your client. You can correspond back and forth. Now, just a heads up, it will not send from your actual mobile phone number. Okay, it's a different phone number that it sends from. So test this out, try it out, text yourself from here so you can see what it looks like. Okay, but again, the main benefit is just for tracking purposes, so you can see all your text messages right from Dotloop. All right, so let me just make sure we have everyone allowed to come in. Yep. All right, so that is how you would text within Dotloop here, and of course you can click the X here. It is a newer feature, so feel free to check it out. Of course, I would try it on yourself or your spouse first before trying it with a client. Now, as far as all these top icons up here, I do go into length on those in the Dotloop 101 video, so if you're curious about that, feel free to check out Dotloop 101 on slmtraining.com. Other than that, let's go ahead and create a practice loop. So let's go ahead and click this big blue button on the far right, top right of your screen that says Add Loop. All right, and there's just 4 main steps that you'll need to do to create your loop. All right, first of all, you want to put in the loop name. So this typically wants to be the property address. Of course, if you're representing the buyer, I realize you won't know the property address quite yet. Right, you can always easily change the loop name. But if at all possible, let's go ahead and if you want to create 123 practice loop or 123 Main Street or your home address, whatever you want to use for a practice loop. It's really great to have a practice loop in your account anyway so that you can practice Dotloop features before doing it in front of clients so it looks like you know what you're doing. It's always positive. Right. Something I want to explain to you guys, when you start typing in the property address, you may have noticed these suggestions that pop down. So there's a couple benefits of actually choosing one of these if it does apply to the home. So first of all, if I start typing this in and I see that the property pops down, it's the correct property, I can tell it's the correct property because I can see the MLS number, I can see who it's listed by. Okay, so I know that's the correct property. If I were to select one of these options, what it does is it pulls all the public information from that loop, from that property, into my loop, so it will autofill onto every form I bring into my loop. Okay, so it brings in, again, it's all public information, such as the address information and any other public data about the property. But again, it saves you some time because it will autofill that public data onto every form you bring into your loop. So it's a good time saver. Second big benefit of this, so if you've been using Dotloop for a little while, you may have noticed that, let's say when you're a listing agent and you receive an offer from another agent in Dotloop, sometimes it creates a second loop within your Dotloop account for that same property, right? So now you have your listing loop for the property, and now you have the second loop sent over from the buyer's agent with the offer. Very annoying, very confusing to have 2 loops for the same property. You have to pull everything over. Okay, so what this does, if you were to select, let's say, this top option, if that's the correct property, it would link up my loop to, let's say, this listing agent. So if I were the buyer's agent making an offer on this listing agent, What it would do is when I did make that offer, it would put that offer in this listing agent's loop directly instead of creating a whole nother loop in their Dotloop account. So it avoids the two loop situation, okay, by putting the offer directly into the loop. It does put it in a different folder, okay, with I believe the agent's name and maybe the client's name. It will separate that for you, but it does really help with the two loop situation. If you have any questions on that, let me know. It's a really great thing to use that not many agents know about. All right, so after that little spiel, I'm going to go ahead and make my loop. And I'll click continue on the bottom right, that blue button there. All right, it'll then take you to step 2, selecting a template. So these are loop templates. Now, you may or may not have these options to select a template from here. Your office staff adds these in for you, so if you don't have template options, there's nothing wrong with your account. Your office just doesn't utilize this feature in Dotloop. If you do have loop templates here, I do highly suggest using them. What it does is if I were to select one of these options here, it would pull in all the forms that I need to get going on my listing, let's say, or my purchase. So it saves me some time because I don't have to go looking for those forms. All right, so you can scroll through here to look for a template that may apply. All right, it's not necessary, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm not going to select a template, and I'll just click continue. All right, but it can be a handy tool for you. Photo. So you can just watch on my screen here. So what adding a photo does is it adds a banner photo for the client. So let's say they are purchasing a home. They're excited about purchasing the home. If you add that to the top of the loop, Dotloop says that your client is 5 times more likely to use you again or refer you out because they feel like, wow, this agent created a personalized website for me to sign my forms. Okay, and you can see how fast this is to do that. So I'll show you real quick. So of course the first step would be you would need to get the photo of the home onto your computer. So if they're buying a home, just go to the MLS and save the photo to your computer. That would be the first step. Step 2 is I would click upload a photo here and it will browse my computer. So I can go wherever I have that saved on my computer. Let me see where that is here. Double click on that photo and it will pull that photo in for me. Now it's not very customizable. It pulls it in and you're only seeing a sliver of the home. You can't adjust where you're viewing it or crop it from here. It kind of is what it is. Right? But this is how you can add a photo to make it a more personalized experience for your client. And you can see it only takes about 30 seconds. All right, so we can go ahead and click done on the bottom right. But again, that's not a necessary step if you're in a rush. So I can click done on the bottom right here. It will tell me I'm finished. I have a bunch of check marks here and I can click to go into my loop. So you can either click on the loop we created here or click view loop on the bottom right. Now before I continue on with today's class, I just want to go ahead and send out the Dotloop notes that I have. So if you would like written out instructions for these notes as well, Dotloop notes, here you are. Okay, it just takes you to Drive. So I'll take you to a Google Doc of notes for today's class. It summarizes the Dotloop 101 and 201 class is more on the second page. So just in case you'd like that. All right, so now that we are in our loop, of course the main section that we focus on, can you add a photo later after the loop has been created? Great question. You can add a photo later, so if you don't have the photo at the beginning or you're in a rush, you can always come into where it says view details at the very top of your screen here. So under the property address, you'll see it says view details in red. So you can click on that. I'll just show you this real quick. And you'll be able to add a photo here at the top. I believe if I don't have that added, if I don't have one added, it'll give you the option to click upload a photo on the left-hand side here, which I can then browse my computer to pull that in. So that was a great question. And just while we're in here as well, I just want to point out on the top right here, this is also where you can change the loop name. So I did mention you typically want to name the loop the property address, but if you ever need to change it, let's say you're representing the buyer, didn't know the property address at first, You can always come in here and change it or even add in the client's name. All right, and you can see how easy that is to change it. Tony Stark. What am I thinking? For any Iron Man fans, Tony Stark is buying this home today. All right, so you can change that right here, and as you can see, I kept clicking save on the top right here on that red toolbar to save any changes here. But if you will, let's go ahead and click on back to loop on the top left. Yeah, I'm just going to show you, since this is a more advanced class, I'm going to show you the fastest way to get started on your transaction, okay, because again, I know it's time sensitive, and you need to get going as quickly as possible. So when you click back to loop, we're back on our main loop here, and we see our document section, which we'll be spending a lot of time in class today. But the first thing you'll want to do when going into your loop is you need to add the people to your loop. So we need to add our clients. So if we go ahead and scroll down, you will see the people on the bottom of your loop. So go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of your loop to the people section. Now you'll always see your admin and yourself on your people section here. Please make a note of what your Dotloop email address is. It is super important that you know your Dotloop email address. If there is another agent sending you an offer, let's say in Dotloop, it's very important you tell them this email address specifically so that you do receive it in this Dotloop account. Okay, so in this people section, what we'll want to do is click add person on the top right to add our client in. And we just need to add in a practice client so we can get a real life effect here. So add person on the top right, that big red button. And there are three main things that you'll need to add in: full name, email address, and a role. So if you want to go ahead and add in your favorite movie star, your spouse's name, or John Smith, if you're not feeling particularly creative, go for it. We got Tony Stark buying our home today. All right, email address. If you want to go ahead and put in an email address of your personal email address, so an email address that is not connected to your Dotloop account, that way that you can see, you can share forms to yourself, to this practice client, so that you can see what your clients see when they're experiencing Dotloop as well. Okay, so if you want to, again, put in your email address, your personal email address, not connected to Dotloop, you can, or you can just put in like test@gmail.com. And lastly, we have a role here. Roles are super important in Dotloop for your clients to be able to electronically sign. They will not be able to electronically sign without a role, so I can't stress enough how important roles are. So when you click on role here, you will have a few options here. There's even a gray scroll bar to scroll through a whole bunch more options, but the ones that are commonly used are at the top here. So typically you'll be using these in seller. I'm going to work on a listing loop for today's class, so I'll select seller from that drop down. All right, when you select the role, it will then give you a whole bunch of other fields to fill in. These are not required fields, but if you do fill in these fields, it will autofill this information onto any forms that require that, like the listing agreement, for example. Real quick, let's talk about this add to my team feature. This is very important for you guys to know about. This add to my team feature, if you were taking notes, please note to never, ever, ever click this checkbox here if you were adding your client to the loop. All right, so the general concept of Dotloop is that everything is private in your loop until you choose to share it with a certain person. Okay, and that's good because you don't necessarily want your client to see every single item in your loop that you can see. All right, clicking add to my team would allow them to do just that. It would allow them to see everything in your loop that you can see, and most of the time you don't want that. Okay, so again, we never click this for our client, and you can't undo it, so just make sure not to do that for your client. But it is a super cool feature, so let's talk about when we would utilize that. So times that we would utilize this add to my team feature, if you are working on the same side of a transaction as another agent in your office. So keywords in that is same side of a transaction. So if you are co-listing a property with another agent in your office, you can add that other agent to your loop. Click add to my team, and it would allow that other agent to see everything and do everything in your loop that you can do. Okay, so it's a great collaborative tool so that you can work together on the loop and share the tasks. Another great usage of it, if you are on a real estate team and you have a team admin, you can add your team admin to every loop. Click add to my team, and it would add this loop to your admin's Dotloop account so that they could help you with the loop and do some of the work as well. All right. Same with closing coordinators and so forth. All right, so now that we are versed on this Add to My Team feature here, let's go ahead and click Add Person on the bottom right, that big red button here. Okay, and we'll add your client in. And of course, you would just repeat the process if you were adding in a spouse or anyone else to the transaction. Now, there's one more thing we need to do in this people section. We need to give ourselves a role. Right, because I said roles are very important to be able to electronically sign. So if you need to electronically sign anything, such as a listing agreement, buyer agency agreement, whatever it may be, you need to give yourself a role so Dotloop knows. So where it says none on the far right of your name, go ahead and change none to, let's say, listing agent in this case. All right. So that'll give you the ability to electronically sign. So now that we have the people set up for our Dotloop account, let's go ahead and scroll to the top of our document section. And let's talk about folders. So let's talk about organizing your loop. As you know, when doing a transaction, there are about 1,000,001 different forms that go into a single transaction. Adding all of those forms to one folder is very overwhelming for you because if you're trying to go into your loop and quickly find a form that you need, it's hard to do so if they're all under one folder and not organized. It's also overwhelming for your office staff. They are awesome and do compliance review on your loops. So help them out and make it your loop organized so that they can quickly find all the forms they need so that they can pay you faster. We like that. Why can't I use the same email address for two people in the same loop? A great question. So, and yes, this does happen a lot. So unfortunately, older couples or married couples may have one Dotloop account, one email address. And unfortunately, Dotloop requires two separate email addresses in order for them to electronically sign. So the way that Dotloop identifies two people as two separate people is two separate email addresses. So it makes it so that one person can't go in and electronically sign both fields for both people in there, right? So unfortunately, there is not a way around that. It is what it is. If that happens, where you run in, your couple only has one email address, you will either have to take the forms to them to have them hand sign it, or I'll show you how to do it from Dotloop, or sign it next to you. Other than that, you can suggest that maybe one of them gets a free Gmail account just for signing the forms. Unfortunately, there's no other way around that. That was a great question, though. Dotloop does require, again, separate email addresses for anyone that needs to electronically sign. Yeah, bummer part about that. All right, so let's talk back on folders and organizing your loops here. Okay, so folders are used for lots of different things. First of all, you might have multiple folders in here. If you chose a loop template, you might already have folders in here. How you can rename any of the folders is by clicking on the three drop-down dots to the far right of the folder name and selecting Rename on the far right. So again, anytime you see these three drop-down dots, that does indicate more options, so feel free to check that out. It'll be next to all of your forms as well. And you'll see that they'll start, the cursor, that's the word I was going for, will start blinking to the left side of the word folder, indicating I can start typing. So I'll type in the word, let's say listing folder in this case. Okay, so you can change the folder name. So typically when you are, to help you stay organized, when you have a listing, you'll want three different folders in the very least. A listing folder with all the listing documents, a sales folder with the contract documents, and then a closing folder with your closing disclosure, termite letter, and all your closing documents. So once you rename the folder, there's at least one default folder that comes with each loop. You can either click Enter on your keyboard or click in the white margin here to make that stick. If you ever mess that up, no worries, just come back over the three drop-down dots and you can rename that. From there, you can add further folders. So on the top right, we have the option to add folder here. It will give me this new folder here. And I can click to the right of the word new so I can backspace and name this the sales folder. And again, this will have all of your contract documents. I can either click enter or click in the white margin to make that stick. And I can do that one more time if I would like a closing folder in here. Click to the right of the word new, backspace to add in closing folder here. Now again, we'll want 3 folders, typically minimum, for if it's your listing to help stay organized. If you're representing the buyer, you'll typically have 2 folders, one of a sales folder and one for a closing folder. Now take folders a step further. If you, let's say, have a terminated offer, that's the worst. Okay, so let's say an offer terminates, wow, sorry, and you have all of your offer documents in your sales folder. You would then be able to rename this folder here to terminated sales folder and add a new folder that says, new sales folder, new offer folder, whatever you'd like to name it. And you can put the client's names next to both of them to help you stay organized. Okay, so it's really helpful for terminated offers. Real quick, let me talk to you about terminated offers. So if you are representing the listing and you receive an offer and it terminates, you can just keep the same loop and create a new folder for your new offer. Okay. However, Dotloop is you create a loop per property that you sell. So if you're representing the buyer and the offer terminates, you will have to create a new loop as it is a new property. Okay, and I'll be showing you how you can easily copy over the documents, let's say the buyer agency and working with real estate agents, that you'll need for the next loop as well. But let me say that one more time. If you're representing a listing and the offer terminates, you can keep the same loop and just create a new folder because the property hasn't changed, right? It's your listing. If you're representing the buyer and you make an offer on a property and the offer terminates, you will need to create a new loop because that is a new property. So new property equals new loop. Okay, and I know it's a little bit of a pain, but it will autofill all the property information onto the form, so it gets confusing when the property changes. So I'll show you how to quickly pull over forms into other loops so that you can easily make copies of those. So it's not too much of a hassle, but please let me know if you have questions on that. That is an important concept of Dotloop so that saves you a headache there. All right, let's pull in a form into our loop now so we can get practicing with that. So if we click on Add Document, next to any of the folder names, you'll see 3 blue boxes display, representing 3 different ways, 3 main ways that you can pull a form into your loop. So this first option here, those are your templates. So those are your interactive forms, as you can see written underneath here. And that means that you can just start typing in these forms. Okay, so these are Dotloop documents. So let's go ahead and click on that first form folder. We're going to quickly pull in a form here so we can practice with that. So we're clicking on the first blue box that says templates. Now when I do that, I will see this document box display, and on the left-hand side, I'll see a bunch of red form folders going down my screen. Now your form folders will look different than mine. Your office staff puts these in here for you and adds them to folders. Okay, so it's different for each market center. But what you'll want to do is on the left-hand side, you can use this little scroll bar here to scroll to look for any form folder that you may need. So if you're looking for a listing document, I'm going to pull in a listing agreement here. I'm going to click on the form folder on the left-hand side that I believe would have that document that I need. Okay, if you're unsure, if you can't find a certain form, make sure to ask your office staff. They'll be able to direct you on where that form may sit, in which form folder here, your broker in charge. And your office staff will direct you. On the left-hand side, we select that form folder, and then you'll be able to take advantage of the search bar on the top of your screen. So we can search for the form that we're looking for as well. So you'll see all the forms in that folder display, but I can search for, let's say, I'm looking for a listing agreement, so I'm going to search the word listing. Now, if you're a newer agent and you're unsure of what forms that you need for the transaction, okay, your office staff may also have checklists for all the forms that you need for a listing or sale and so forth. Okay, so feel free to check in with them to see if they have checklists for you. That can come in handy to finding out the form name as well. Once you find the form you're looking for, so there is a scroll bar on the far right to scroll to kind of browse for whichever form you're looking for. You can click the checkbox to the left of the form name that you want to pull in. You can select multiple forms at once if you would like to. And then you can click copy on the bottom right. Okay, and that will pull the form into your loop. Okay, so I'm clicking copy on the bottom right here. Once I do that, I can click OK on the bottom right as well. And that will take me back to my loop where I can simply click on the form name to start editing that right away. All right, so I simply clicked on the form name and that will pull up this autofill box here. Okay, I'll open the form and pull up this autofill box. We never want to X out of this autofill box. Okay, so avoid that X like the plague. All right, we like this autofill box. It does save you a large amount of time. So first of all, what this autofill box does is it will allow your clients to electronically sign. Now in this roles section here, I do keep mentioning that the roles are super important in order for your clients to electronically sign. So it's very, very important that you see your client's name in line with seller 1. Okay, if you're working on a buyer form, it would say buyer 1, whatever the role may be. Make sure to see your client's name in line with that. If it just says select person next to it, they will not be able to electronically sign. So if it does say select person, all you need to do to fix that is simply click on that option where it says select person. And then you can select your client from that drop down if they've been added to the loop. But let's say you weren't aware that this client had a spouse until this moment. You can click add person from here and also add your client from here as well. Okay, but either way, for them to electronically sign, you would have to add them here with a role. Same concept for you as the listing agent or buyer's agent. Make sure that you see your name in line with your role if you need to sign this form especially. As you scroll down, it will prompt you for some information here, right, the property information. This is a huge time saver. So if you go ahead and enter in any of this information here, that prompt will say the property information, it will not only autofill it onto this form that we're working on, but all future forms that you bring into your loop. So really huge time saver to take a moment to enter this all in here. Another great benefit of this section here, if you are a newer agent and you are just learning your forms, if you're new to the state you're in or new to real estate in general, it's a little overwhelming seeing these 10-page forms, knowing where all the information goes on the form. So it's a great learning tool as well. So if you enter in the information here, Dotloop knows where it goes on the forms. It will put it there for you so you can learn where to put it in the future. Okay. You can also search for the address or MLS number on this top section here. That will search Google for the public information and autofill this as well. Okay, it will also link your loop to another agent's loop, right? How I was mentioning earlier, to avoid that two-loop situation. So that, let's say your offer would go in the listing agent's loop automatically. Okay, talked about that a little earlier when we were creating the loop. All right, as you scroll down, you'll see a bunch of other information that you can enter in that will autofill again onto this form and every future form in this loop specifically. So you can scroll on down and click autofill on the very bottom in red. See a red button that says autofill. Go ahead and click on that. Please make sure to never skip this step. It's very, very important for this all work for you. Now when you do that, you will see some yellow fields on your form, and those are the fields that have been autofilled, in case you're wondering. All right, and I do go into detail on how to edit this form and share the form in the Dotloop 101 video. That's what I focus on, so feel free to check that out if you're unsure on how to do that. Okay, but in general, it's as simple as clicking to edit the form. All right, but what I want to show you in this class real quick is, let's come on up to the More option. So you will see More on the very top black toolbar. Go ahead and click on More, and I want you to notice this Host in-Person Signing. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. So let's say you bring your laptop or your tablet on your appointment, you're on a listing appointment, you're filling out the form next to your client, and you get done filling out the form and they are ready to electronically sign it. Now, generally you would email the form to your client so they could electronically sign it. However, when they're sitting next to you, wouldn't it be nice to just be able to pass over your computer or iPad so that they can sign it right next to you? Well, that's exactly what this Host in-Person Signing does. So if you come up to More, and again, make sure you fill out the form first. So I know we didn't go through and fill out the form, but you will need to entirely fill out the form first before having your client sign it. If they sign it and then you try to make a change to the form, It will erase your client's signatures because it thinks they didn't sign for that. It makes sense, all right, but it's just a pain. So make sure we fill out the form first. Then you can come up to More, click Host in Person Signing. And it'll ask you if you would like to save it. I'm going to click Yes. And just watch on my screen on this. Okay, don't do this on your end, and I'll tell you why in a minute here. All right, when you click on Host in Person Signing, it will ask you which person you would like to sign. So if you have multiple people in this transaction, you would see more than one person on this list here. So you can select who's ready to sign, and you can click Continue. When you click Continue, it will ask you to then pass a device over to your client so they can sign it. Okay, and once they're done signing, they can give you the device back. Now, just a heads up, one thing you will need to know, when you are doing this, when you receive the device back, it will have logged you out of your Dotloop account and logged your client into their Dotloop account. They get a free Dotloop account, so they can electronically sign it. So when you get your device back, you will need to log back into your Dotloop account to work further if you need to on that form. All right, so just a heads up so you're not caught off guard, and that's why it's always beneficial to practice these things before doing it in front of clients. All right, but Host in Person Signing, great way to have your client sign right next to you. And again, we just did that in the More option on the top black toolbar here. Host in Person Signing. Okay. Of course, you can always come up to File and you can print and download this document as well so that you can type up the form and then print it out so you can take it to your client to hand sign it. So if you ever run into a client who does not feel comfortable with electronic signatures, or maybe you're not a big fan of technology, or you just want to explain the document sitting right next to them, okay, coming up to File and Print, you'd be able to do just that, and I'll be showing you in just a moment here how you can add that document back to your loop once it's been printed out and in your hands. So keep that in the back of your mind. We'll be coming back to that concept in a minute here. All right, but in the meantime, let's go ahead and click on this back button on the top left. Okay, we're clicking on back. It's kind of hard to see. It's a red on the black toolbar here to the left of the form name. Okay, it might ask you if you want to save the form. Click yes, you want to save. No, you don't want to share. You might see a couple pop-up boxes there. And I know that was a quick overview of the interactive forms. Again, that is covered in detail in the Dotloop 101 video found on slmtraining.com. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about is something I mentioned briefly earlier, and that is the Make a Copy feature. Now, first I'm going to show you where it sits. We'll do it, and I'll tell you the benefits of this. So it's a very cool feature. So in the 3 drop-down dots, as I mentioned, that will always show you more options, so feel free to check that out. All right, and this Make a Copy feature, let me tell you about this feature real quick. So first of all, this Make a Copy feature will allow you to copy this form into another loop. So for example, as I mentioned, if a buyer that you have, if the offer terminates and you to then copy this form into your next loop for their next property, Make a Copy is your friend to do so. All right, but another time that you'll want to use this, okay, and this is what we're going to focus on. Now, I did mention that if you have a fully executed document, so one that is signed by your clients, and you need to make a change to that, would you please show us how to split documents? Yeah, sure. I'll make a note of that. That will be on PDF. So we're going to pull in a PDF in just a minute. You can't split in Dotloop interactive forms, so ones that you can just type in, but you can split PDFs. And we're actually just about to go into that. So I'll show you that in just a moment here. Great question. All right, so one more thing real quick here on this Make a Copy. So again, I mentioned that if you try to make a change to a fully executed form, it will erase your client's signatures, and that's very annoying if that happens, okay? But sometimes you need to make a small change to a form, like adding, changing your client's name or changing the settlement date, whatever it may be, okay? This, what you can do is utilize this Make a Copy feature to turn an interactive form, so meaning one you can just type in Dotloop, to a PDF, so that it preserves the signatures and you can make changes to it without erasing all the signatures. Okay, I'll be walking you through that, so if that hurt your brain a little bit, this should make sense in just a moment here. So go ahead and click on the 3 drop-down dots to the far right of the document name. Let's go ahead and click Make a Copy. Okay, and it will give you 2 options here. Either to copy it as a Dotloop document, okay, and that's the item you'll want to choose if you are copying this to another loop, copying this form to another loop. But the option we're going to want to utilize is that second option down. It says copy as flat PDF. Keywords here, signatures are preserved. So again, we can make changes to the form without erasing our client's signatures. Okay, so we like that. So go ahead and select that second option there that says copy as flat PDF. Okay, if you are following along, this is a moment that if you don't do this step that I will lose you for a little bit. So make sure to click on that second option. You will have to change it to copy as flat PDF, signatures preserved. Let's click on To Loop, that red button on the far right. And it will start browsing your loops. Okay, so if you need to copy it to another loop, you certainly could. But in this case, I want to copy it to the same loop. Okay, so I would just search whatever my current loop's name is. So that search bar at the top there will search through your loops. You can click on the loop that you would like to select. And we'll show you your folder names. Okay, so just for the sake of it not being confusing, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the sales folder, so it's in a different folder. Okay, you can put in whatever folder you would like to. And click copy on the bottom right. And I can click OK. So now, when I come into my loop, it'll show me I now have a copy of that form in my sales folder. I can, of course, rename that copy if I write it's the same name, so it's a little confusing. I can rename it by clicking on the 3 drop-down dots over here to click rename. So if you want to name it the edited version, let's say, whatever you'd like to name it. All right, and then I can go ahead and click on this form name so I can pull it open. Now the main difference as I'm pulling this open would be that it's not editable. I can't just click to start typing. Okay, that's what we did. We converted it to a PDF. So PDF means it's not editable. And the main benefit of that is it won't erase all my client signatures if I try to make a change. And that's what we're going to discuss right here real quick. Now before we dive into that, I do want to send out this. I have a 10-minute video talking about the make a copy feature. Okay, which is kind of what we just discussed. It shows it in more detail. I know that was a couple steps and a quick overview. So if you guys ever need that, that will help you out with that. Now, I know we had a question on how to split PDFs, okay, and that is done up on the File option on the top black toolbar. You'll see it says Split Document. Okay, you have the option to rotate it as well, which is a little easier to explain real quick. Rotating, so if you have this file in it sideways and you need to rotate it all straight, you can rotate the entire file or just by pages. You also have the option to split the document. So if you have, let's say you scanned in your whole listing packet and we need to split the document into the individual documents, you can come up to split document. It will give you the option here on the far right to split the document into however many. Let's see, it gives you up to 10 options. So let's say I want 3 different documents. I can designate which pages need to be with which form, okay, and I can rename it here as well. Rename that file and how many pages for each file and click split document. Definitely super handy. It is only used with PDFs, okay, and again what I mean by PDF is I can't just click to start typing. Okay, so let me know if you have any further questions on that, but that'll be in the file menu here. Okay, so again, why we made a copy of this as a PDF is so that we can make a change, all right, in this instance. I'm going to say that I put in my client's name as Tony Stark and his name legally is Anthony. Okay, so I need to make that change, but I didn't want to erase all my client's signatures from a fully executed form. How you make edits to a PDF, and this is a cool feature because not many software programs allow you to make changes to PDFs, especially for quote-unquote free for Keller Williams agents. So what we would do is come up to this Add option on the top black toolbar. So we have Add. And you'll see a bunch of different options that you can add. Okay. In this case, let's say I'm going to start with Add Strike Through. Let's see, bottom option here. So I'm going to strike through my client's previous name. So I'll click Add Strike Through. It will start following my mouse. Okay, and I can click to drop it over what I'm trying to strike through. Now, if you're working on a tablet or a touchscreen computer, it will not start following your mouse, the field, but you can just click to drop it, and it will drop that field. Just a heads up. Now the next thing I need to do is come up to add, and I need to add a text box. Okay, so I'm going to add text. When I click add text, again, it will start following my mouse. I can line it up wherever I'd like to drop it, and I click to drop that text box. Now, it drops a really tiny text box. Okay, it doesn't fit a whole lot. If you hover your mouse, if you click and then hover your mouse over the text box that you just dropped, you will then see a tiny right triangle on the bottom right of that text box. If you hover your mouse over it, your mouse will turn into an arrow, so I can click to drag and make this text box however big I need it to be. Okay, so that's how you can add that in a text box. And let's say now I'll add in my client's correct name. But of course, any changes that you make to a fully signed document, those changes need to be signed, right? So recognizing your clients acknowledge that change. So now we need to come up to add on the top black toolbar and click add initials in this case. So I'll click add initials. And just a heads up, if you've been using Dotloop for a while and you feel comfortable with this process here, if you need to lay more than one of these fields, so more than one text box or more than one initial box, let's say there are two spouses, you can hold Shift on your keyboard before clicking, and it will then continue to follow your mouse. Okay, so if you hold Shift and then click your mouse to drop it, it will allow you to then keep adding that same field. Okay, so then I can click to add again to add that second one. Okay, that time I didn't hold Shift, so it's not going to let me add a second one. Okay, again, holding Shift before clicking your mouse to drop a field will allow you to lay multiple of that field. Okay, if I need to delete a field, let's say I click happy and I add a field in the middle of this verbiage, or there's not two clients that need to sign it, simply click on the field you need to delete, and you'll notice this blacker bar that will display with a little X on it. You can click remove field. Okay, so that little X there will remove that for you. Now, once you lay an initial box, you must assign that to your client. Okay, and so the concept is you laid an initial box, but Dotloop doesn't want just anyone to be able to sign that field. They want only the person that you assign to that field to be able to sign that. So what you have to do anytime you lay an initial box on a PDF is go ahead and click on it. Here, you can hover over that. I'm just hovering here. And you'll see it says assign field. Okay. Absolutely necessary if you are adding initial or signature fields to a PDF. So when I click assign field, it will pop up this drop-down box here. And I need to click my client's name in order for them to sign it. Okay. So I click their name from that drop-down, and I now see my client's initials in print. Okay, indicating to me that they will be able to electronically sign this. Now, as you know, if you've been using Dotloop before, if you were to print out this document, this initial field will be blank, right? When they actually go to electronically sign it, it's in cursive with a time and date stamp and looks very different. That is a 100% necessary step if you are adding initial boxes or signature boxes to a PDF for them to sign it. Okay. All right, another great use to editing PDFs is, let's say you receive an offer from the agent on the other side of the transaction who does not use Dotloop. Okay, they send you a PDF of the document and you add it to your loop. Okay, so now you have a PDF in here. However, your client decided to go vacation in Florida in the middle of their transaction. You need to be able to email this PDF to your client for them to electronically sign that. So in that case, you would have to scroll down to wherever they need to sign the form. You come up to add on the top black toolbar. You can add signature initial boxes here to lay that on the bottom of each page so that they could electronically sign that. Again, you do have to go through the tedious step of assigning each field to them, or they will not be able to sign it. Okay, so that's another great use of what we just practiced here. Okay, again, if the agent on the other side sends you a PDF of the offer and your client needs to electronically sign it, this is how you would do that. Lay the initial fields and make sure to assign it to those clients. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on that, but you will definitely come in handy in utilizing that. All right, and of course you can come up to File to print or download the form as well. Okay, I highly suggest downloading all fully executed forms. So if you have a fully executed contract, make sure to download that to have save a copy on your computer, because as I mentioned, any small change will erase all those signatures, and you want to rest assured that you have a downloaded copy on your computer as well. All right, so let's go ahead and click the back button on the top left. You have the ability to edit the client at this point. So are you talking about like edit the client's information, I assume? So yes, you do until the client goes to electronically sign something. So let me answer your question. I'll show you that. Good question. Yes. So what Candace is asking, great question here. So as I found out, he needs to sign as Anthony. Yeah, I'll come back to this question here after how do you get rid of assigned fields when your client has two options for choose from? For example, a lead-based bank disclosure. So you're asking, here, I'll come back to this question real quick. I'm going to answer Candace real quick, and then we'll come back to that one so I can make sure I'm answering them correctly. So what Candace is asking is, Tony, I have in here as Tony Stark, but he needs to sign as Anthony Stark. So I can edit my client's name by going to the back button. I will need to click out of the form. So click on back on the top left here. It will ask you if you want to save it, and it will ask you if you would like to share it. You can click yes, save, no share for right now. All right, so you can edit your client's names from the people section. So I'm back on my main loop. Scroll down to the people section. So I'll see here in line with my client's name, I have these 3 drop-down dots. I do have the option to edit his name from here, so I could change this to Anthony instead and click save. Okay, and that is the 3 drop-down dots here. Now just a heads up, you will not have this edit ability. You can't edit their name or email address once your client signs something. So once your client goes in and starts signing forms, okay, the first time that they go to sign something, they do have the ability to change their name. So if you misspelled their name, or they sign their legal name's Anthony instead Tony, they will have the option to edit that information when they go to sign something. So once they do sign something, you no longer have the ability to edit that. Your client would only be able to edit that from their Dotloop account. Okay, so if you have any further questions on that, let me know. Let me check out this other question here. How do you get rid of assigned fields when your client has 2 options to choose from? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, good question. All right, so I believe what you're saying, let me go back into the form, is on some forms you'll see, and it won't be exactly like this, it'll have 2 initial boxes and you don't want them to sign both of them, right? You only need them to sign the one. What you'll need to do is on this, the second box that you don't want them to sign, go ahead and do the same kind of process where you click assign field, but then select no one from that drop down. Okay, and that will make it so no one can sign that field. Okay, they can only sign the one they're supposed to, right? Because they don't know which one they're supposed to. So that helps guide them if you ever run into that, to make sure they don't sign an incorrect field. Again, click on that field and change who it's assigned to no one. Okay. Let me know if that was not the question for another. Let's see. What if they need to choose one or the other? In that case, you should be able to. So on interactive forms, it'll autofill, so it'll allow them to select either one. For that, I believe you can change it to anyone. That should be the correct answer for you. So if you need them to sign either one, if they're selecting, give them the option for anyone, and they'll be able to sign either field. Okay. If you have any further struggle with that, feel free to let me know. You can always email me at support@scottloriemarketing.com and put attention to my name, which is Leah, Leah. Okay, and I'm happy to help you with that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on back. If you were following along, I'm clicking out of the form now. I'm going to go ahead and click back. I'm saving the changes, but I'm going to click no to share. All right, so the next things that we need to go talk about is adding. There are 2 other ways that you can add documents to your loop. So I am back on the document section. So if you are currently still in a document, just make sure to click that back button. It's the back arrow in red on the top left of your document. And that'll take you back to your main loop. And let's click on add document to the far right of any of the folder names. Okay, you can choose. And then we talked about this first option here, adding via templates, and those are adding forms that you can just start typing in. Okay, but let's talk about this browse option. Okay, so what this would do is it would browse your computer to search and add any PDFs from your computer into this folder. Now, times we would need this. First of all, let's say you have, let's say, a printed out listing, your listing packet. So you have your offer and all of your sales documents, everything in front of you, like literally in your hands, in a paper, and you now need to get that to your Loop for compliance or for whatever reason. Okay, typically your office will require all your paperwork be in your Loop. So if you have that physically in your hand in paper form, step one, scan that to your computer. Okay, your office may have a scanner for you to utilize, or if your home printer has a scanner, you would scan that to your computer. Step two is you would then be able, you would of course have to save it to your computer. So make sure you're looking where you save that scanned document. You would then be able to click browse. Okay, that second box there, it will browse your computer. So let's see where I have a document here. So you can browse wherever you have that saved. And just a heads up, this does have to be a PDF to pull that in. So I can see this is a PDF. And I can double click on that to pull that in. So you won't be able to pull in, let's say, a picture file. The time I see that the most is if you have a picture of the earnest money check or whatever check. You can't add it as a picture file. Dotloop only accepts PDFs. If you run into that, there are a ton of free converters on Google. So you could Google JPEG to PDF converter. And let me send one out so you guys have one. 1 second. And of course, you can always email over the picture file to us and we'd be happy to convert that for you. All right, but I'm going to go ahead. Here's an example of a PDF converter, and I'll send that out in the chat here in just a second here. But JPEG, JPG, the number 2, PDF.com. Okay, so again, this is if you have a picture file, like a picture of the check, you need to convert it to a PDF so you can add it into Dotloop. Let me send that out for you guys. All right, just so you have that. If you have any troubles with that, of course, you can let us know. Support@scottleroymarketing.com is where you can contact us. We can always convert it for you or help you out with that. All right, but it does have to be a PDF to add it to your Loop. Okay. Another time that you would use this browse option is if you have an agent on the other side sent you an email with a PDF version. Okay, it's saved to your computer. You can then browse your computer to pull that in. You can also drag and drop files. So if you like drag and dropping or you feel comfortable with technology, you can always come to the file on your computer. See if I can show you this real quick. Find the file and drag and drop it in. Okay, so I'm just dragging and dropping that in. It does the same exact thing as browse, so whichever you feel more comfortable with will achieve the same thing. All right, let's talk about this last way that you can add documents to your Loop, and that is this email option here. This is a really cool option. This is personally my favorite option. Just watch on my screen so that you can, there is a couple steps here. I have a short video on this as well that I'll send out to you guys to overview this. But main benefits of this. So you'll see you can attach the file you need to an email and send them directly into this folder. So main benefit, let's say I am, just watch on my screen here, I'm in my email. Okay, and I see the agent on the other side emailed me a PDF version of the offer, and I need to get it into my Loop. Now, the fastest way to get that from my email account into my Loop are these steps. So step one, I click on this email option, the third blue box, and if you're not seeing these three blue boxes, you'll just click on Add Document on the top right of any folder name that you'd like to add that document to. I'm going to go ahead and select Email, that third blue box. It will then generate this crazy long Dotloop email address that is specific to this folder in this loop. Okay, and I can click on Copy to Clipboard. So I'm copying that crazy long Dotloop email address. I will now go over to my emails, and I just have this in a separate tab. I have Dotloop open, and then I have my emails in a separate tab on the top of my browser. I'm going to open up the email. Okay, this is from the other agent. I can see the offer as a PDF in here. And I now need to forward this email. Now, if you utilize your KW Gmail account, you can forward that by clicking the 3 drop-down dots on the far right of the email and select forward. Okay, whatever email system you use, I'm sure you're pretty comfortable with how to forward an email. So however that's done, we'll click forward. It will then pop up this email. I see the attachment here, and in the To field, I'm going to right click and paste. Okay, so I'm pasting in that crazy long Dotloop email address into the To field. Okay. Now what's going to happen when I click send is Dotloop will ignore all the verbiage in the actual email, so that does not go in. Only the attachment will go into your loop. So I'll click on send. Okay, and now I can go back to my loop. So back in my loop here. Now it won't just display magically in your account. It does take about, I would say 10 to 30 seconds max from what I've seen to display in here. But in order to get that to pop up in your loop, you need to refresh your page. So again, to refresh your page, that is on the top left of your browser typically. It's the arrow in a circle. Okay, refreshing your page by the back button. All right, and once you refresh, you will then see that emailed PDF in your loop right away. Now, I know that was a couple steps, so I'm going to go ahead and send out a video on how you can email into Dotloop. There is another way that you can email into Dotloop as well. So there's an inbox in the template section of your Dotloop account as well. So this short little video here will show you how another way to email into Dotloop. It'll overview what I just showed you, so you can practice along and pause the video and show you a second way to email into the inbox of your Dotloop account. Yeah, feel free to check those out. If you're watching this class recorded and want any of these videos, feel free to email support@scottleroymarketing.com. Put attention my name, which is Leah, and I'd be happy to send that over. All right, there is one last video I want to send over to you guys, and this is a really cool feature of Dotloop. So let me tell you about this feature, and then I will send you this video so that you can watch this and learn this feature. So form templates. Let me tell you the ability that Dotloop has real quick. So when you're adding, let's say, a listing agreement to every loop, every listing that you have, right? A lot of the information on a listing agreement, for example, is the same on every single listing agreement, right? You're typing in the same kind of information, you know, NA on some fields, or your commission rate will stay generally the same. Right? A lot of the information is the same on every single listing agreement that you use for every property. So what you can do is Dotloop has the ability to create a listing agreement template so that you can fill in the information that's used on most of the listing agreements, so that every time you pull it into your new listing loop, it already has that pre-filled information on there, so you don't have to be constantly filling that in. So it saves you a lot of time because that's already filled in. You can, of course, always go and change that information. So if you're just putting in, you know, that there's no synthetic stucco on this home, because there's not usually, okay, you can always change that if it does apply to that property. All right, and that is a 10-15 minute video that I just sent out on form templates. Really cool feature, really great time saver. Feel free to check that out to take your Dotloop knowledge even further. All right, guys, please let me know if you have questions. You can always email me at support@scottleroymarketing.com. Put attention my name, Leah. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Write out any notes that you need that weren't on the Dotloop notes I sent out earlier. Please let me know how I can best help you. Dotloop is obviously a great system, and I want to help you learn it to the fullest ability. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and happy looping. Take care, guys.